Hi everyone, my name is Karen Bala and I want to introduce you to Talk Tool, learn words that you will use. And I want to introduce you to Iris Gussman, my persona or my proto-persona. And she is in her 40s, born in Mexico and lives in LA. And she is a fragrance designer as well as a global citizen. She loves to travel for pleasure and for business, and she is also a self-proclaimed foodie, an avid paddleboarder. She's a lifelong learner, a perfectionist, and the thing that we want to keep in mind throughout this entire presentation is that she remembers details when they are unique to her. And some of the goals and motivations for Iris is that needs the ability to quickly recall vocabulary pertinent to her job and needs the ability to create her own study materials to make sure that she is able to recall words and vocabulary words that are unique, or if she can make them unique for her. And if learning new words can be made fun, so retention is part of a fun learning process. And finally, would like the ability to jot notes or take photos specific to a new vocabulary word, so it makes the meaning more rich and personalized. And the problem statement is Iris is a fragrance designer, and she needs a quick way to quickly find the meaning of words when they are spoken or written because her life and business depends on precise communications. And some of the challenges that Iris face are, as a world traveler and as a fragrance designer, I want to be able to communicate through language, and so that my experiences are rich with memory and humor. And as a foodie and fragrance designer, I want to be able to learn and discover new cultures throughout the world. So I'm constantly innovating and learning from people. And so what she would say is, I would love a tool to help me remember my new vocabulary words. So now I'm going to share some of my process work with you all. And of course, this is something I call a sloppy copy. My process typically involves putting all of the screens on one page just so I can kind of see and how they all lay out. It's really tough for me sometimes to sketch over many different pieces of paper. And for me, it's just kind of easier to kind of track in this way. But this is how I started to kind of lay out and think through the prototype. And always, again, remembering Iris, where remembers details when they are unique to her. And so now, from the initial sketching, I went into the usability test plan. And the 5 things listed are the things that I tested with my testing group. And again, I was always trying to think through Iris in a lot of the testing, where she would like the ability to jot notes or take photos specific to a new vocabulary word, so it makes the meaning more rich and personalized for her. And so these are the 5 things that I tested, and I paid particular attention to just some of the comments and sort of the pinch points that the users had while I was testing them. And so these are some of the before and after. There'll definitely be more iterations, but these are the ones that I wanted to share today. This was for the homepage. This was the first version, and obviously the homepage version 2 is some of the slight changes that I had made that hopefully makes navigating much more clear. This was, again, one of the big concerns about the homepage was that the users were confused about the homepage of what to do. So I created a new one. Hopefully now, if I tested it again, that it would be more clear that this is the homepage, created a new icon, a home icon, And then also the home page now has distinct buttons to lead you to a path, so folks can users can pick the path that they want to take. Silly enough, I thought an X would be a good idea. It sends the users back to the home to the sign up page, which was kind of silly because, as one user said, it felt a little too blunt, which I kind of agree at this point. So the new iteration of adding a new vocabulary word screen is that now there's an actual back button, which I hope is a lot better than say the X button, which I then put into the account menu, which I think a lot of us find the exit button is now in the menu, or log out. And then the other thing that I added on this screen that I think is going to be helpful is that save and review button. It's much more clear, and it prevents users from being in a constant loop, which I thought was a very eye-opening and surprising comment. But as I was thinking it through, it made so much more sense. And then the overall thing that I really learned here is that overall users need a button to finish their task. It seems kind of silly now that I think about it, but it makes so much sense. And then some other screens that I wanted to share. Adding a photo was always very important to Iris. Adding photos and a voice memo to make the word much more distinct and unique for her. Was adding a photo. And again, this was the first version of adding a photo, and then this is the second version. Again, putting a back button, which is really helpful. The home icon where folks can always go back to the home page. And then this added key, I didn't have it here in version 1, but save and return to entry was really important for users. It makes it much more clear, and this screen had folks looping back too much. So hopefully when someone hits save and return to entry, that they'll actually go back to the right screen and complete other tasks that they need to do. And then the last page to hit the success criteria of adding a new word. This was the first version. Again, the exit button, I put it into the menu, account menu. And then this is the second version of it, where again, now there's a couple of new features where edit the entry and continue add words. Those were really important. The users were really confused about what to do, especially on this page. So hopefully these two new buttons, and again, the home page will be much more clear in the future. And some future improvements to TalkTool that I'd like to get to in the near future. These are some additional goals that Iris has, and it's if learning new words can be made fun, so retention is part of a learning process. I started to do that here, just to kind of keep pushing this app forward. Is this idea of taking the challenge and creating a feedback. Again, it's really trying to respond to how can learning be made more fun. So this will definitely go through some iteration with some users and see how clear this could be. And again, something that I'd like to kind of keep pushing would like the ability of learning vocabulary reminders to be in sync with her travel schedule. So this could take some coordination, but I think it's something that that is an improvement in the future that I'd like to tackle. And some of the lessons learned that I'd like to share. Learning this new process for me, some pros and cons. For me, it's having fun making mistakes. This is really new. I'm an architect by trade, and sometimes making mistakes are really costly. And I'm sure it's no different here, but it just seems like the process it's accepted, and it's kind of celebrated too because of the quick the quick iteration phases, which allows you to understand your mistakes and keep pushing forward. And this, again, it's the design thinking process is fast with quick results. And I think that that kind of helps with making mistakes, is that you can go back and correct them and make them better. And being right the first time does not matter in this process. In fact, it's it's kind of designed to allow for lots of flexibility. And research and test have been my favorite twins to keep moving projects forward. I feel like researching and testing and going back and forth, I feel like those are just I think about them as twins now. And having a good starting point with a proto persona helps propel the project. It really helped me to understand the persona or create a proto persona, just to kind of always keep in mind, which I'd never had thought about that before. And some of the cons that I had, and I'm sure these are going to change as I get better with this process, but it is difficult to allow oneself to make mistakes. As much as that it's fun, it's also difficult, especially if you're coming from a trade already, or a professional trade already, where making mistakes is costly and it's a time-consuming process to revert back. But so it's the con for me is that it could be difficult to allow oneself to do that. And backtracking in the process can feel counterintuitive. This idea of quick iteration and testing and prototyping, sometimes it can feel counterproductive. But once I get used to it, it'll feel much more natural. And again, usability tests can debunk an idea. It could be a con, but I think it's also a pro, right? Having usability tests could really sharpen an idea and make it much, much better. And the iterative process can feel like moving forward is small and incremental. But maybe that's the idea, is that taking things in chunks and really and moving these chunks slowly forward, even if sometimes it feels backwards. And then clients may not have the money or patience for research. I think that might be a con as I kind of go through my learning process. But we'll see. And I've enjoyed my first month so much that I can't wait to kind of keep going and keep learning. So thank you very much. I hope you enjoyed TalkTool.